Hello, Martin, and welcome to episode 33 of Illuminating Rounds. There's a wry smile.
Hello, Dave. Yeah, just a slight sense of deja vu. I just feel like we've already done the opening once.
We have ended other ones, and I managed to spoil completely the scenario that we were about to play or show you between Dwayne and Richard. And I don't want to spoil it because it's a great scenario. So we're going to see that playing this week, and we are playing for the hand painted version of board 70. Here's a picture of it right now. So that's currently sitting at my sister's house in Connecticut. So we're gonna get that across to whoever wins. Martin, are you going to hand it over to me if I win it?
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, then we'll do a proper little, I don't know, virtual handover.
Yeah.
I'll get a digital image of it and email it to you or something. Everyone can watch my email go. It'll be great.
So it's worth pointing out. So we are going to run this tournament again. We're going to run. It's going to start in January. If you want to be part of this tournament, and I think everybody has a great time. I know, there have been people that haven't played very other opponents, and we've had good times. I haven't heard a bad word about any games that have gone on. So to everybody that played so far, thank you. We really appreciate it. If you want to be in next year's.
Yeah, go on. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. So if you want to be in next year's tournament, so it's going to start in January, middle tier for Patreon. Get in there and you'll have the chance to win another hand-painted board. We've got another one up for grabs for next year's tournament as well. So definitely worth being a part of. Martin, are you planning on being in more than one round? Or are you just going to...
Well, you know me, Dave. I tend to lose when I really want to win. When I'm really determined, I lose. So we'll see what happens. Okay, but I'll give it my best.
Okay, good. Good. All right. And what else? What have you been up to? Because you wanted to talk about this coming weekend's stuff.
Yeah, so it's not quite this coming weekend. Well, it depends on when this goes live. But the weekend beginning the 20th of November is, of course, the Bounding Fire tournament, which would have been in Blackpool in England, which is now completely online. So people all around the world, if they want to get involved, get in touch. Go online and Google Bounding Fire tournament, and you got Martin Mayers and Simon Staniforth organising it. They'll be very, very happy, I'm sure, to get in touch and tell you what's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't make it, and I know you can't make it. It's one that we would have. Yeah, we would have loved to have to go along. And Toby, to be fair, was going to give a tuition session as well to anybody one of the patrons who was going to do that. So that offer is still open for a future event. So again, another reason to be a patron if you want to be. So thank you to all the Patreons so far. Thank you to the Kansas City guys who have sponsored the tournament as well. You also can win, the person who wins the tournament will be winning a March Madness pack. So we've got that ready to give away as well. So big thank you as well to everybody who's been downloading those March Madness packs. We've sold a whole bunch of them already. I hope people have enjoyed them. Let us know how you got on, if you picked a good scenario, if you found a good one out of those packs. That would be good to hear. We've certainly played a few of them, and we'll play more as well. Including Martin one in the final, which you'll announce perhaps after we've gone through this one.
Good idea. Good timing for that.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah. We're going to talk about our top 5 worst scenarios, Martin. What's all that about?
Well, so we had a very careful think about this. We didn't. We're not really talking about scenarios that no one could possibly like, but scenarios that, for whatever reason, we didn't like or we didn't enjoy as much, perhaps as we might do.
Right.
There are all kinds of reasons. We'll try to explain them as we go along.
Yep. Yeah.
But yeah, 5 scenarios we didn't enjoy.
Exactly.
They're not necessarily against each other, are they? I think most of them are UV me, but not all of them are.
Yeah, that's it. We do our best to make sure the other doesn't enjoy that scenario. And we've also got Toby's top tips, so we're gonna play that in a little bit, and we'll do a roundup at the end. So I guess without further ado, Martin, top 5 worst scenarios.
All right. I'm looking forward to this.
Okay,
so I'll start off with number 5.
Yep.
Number 5 is a game that me and you played a very long time ago, ad hoc at Beaurains. And the reason I think that we found it a little bit frustrating was because they're early war tanks. The Matilda 1s, they're also Matilda 2s. And Matilda 2s are like tearing along at like 9 sort of movement points. But the Matilda 1s, it's 6. And I'm not even sure I don't think they can use the road movement rate. I mean, they are painfully slow. And basically, you drove them across the roads and then I think I blew them up.
Right.
It was just like it was just I can't remember who won actually. But,
I'm almost certain you won because I remember hating the scenario. But I just remember it just being ponderous, and I remember it being painfully slow. It was not the kind of the brain burning ASL that I think we both enjoy, and it wasn't the tactical kind of nuanced scenario. It just was one of the older scenarios as well. To be fair, it's quite an old scenario, and I think then there were scenarios that just went on longer, and they seem to take longer time to play. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's simulating the early war, and there's some very, very slow and ponderous tanks, aren't there? And if you want to play them, and I'm sure there are people that are fascinated by the different types of tanks that were available at that time. Yep. To some extent, I am myself. And you want to play with them?
Yep.
There's a scenario, and you can see, the benefits of them and just how slow they can be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right. So my number 4 scenario, interestingly called Tedium. It was from the Leningrad pack. Now, this one, I looked back at my comments for this. It was one of my lowest rated scenarios I played. It was against you and me, and we played with the errata, which actually increased the casualty victory points that one side had to get by nearly 50%. So it was quite a big errata, and I think I still won within. I think I said I'd won on turn 3, 5 turns earlier than I needed to have won, and it was a victory point kind of thing. I don't remember if it was you just struggling to come on and me just covering all the entrance hexes, but for whatever reason, it wasn't a great scenario. We didn't have a good time with it.
And it does seem a little bit ironic that the title seems to put. But of course, the thing is, I think I guess we felt it perhaps wasn't well balanced.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
and if it doesn't give you a chance to, if it, we've talked before about how your ASL time really is time that you want to enjoy it. And I know that different people, there's been a discussion on the forums this week about the level of at what point do you accept the balance of a scenario. Is it going to be 60-40? Is it 70-30? Is it 80-20? And there was a nice comment on one of the videos about not every battle in World War II was balanced, otherwise we'd still be fighting right now.
That's true. Yeah.
That's a great point. So there is that, but I don't know, there is a point where if you feel like for whatever reason, either the setup as I've set up badly or you've set up badly, and it just seems like it's been a pointless game, And I think a little bit of that was perhaps in the scenario that we're going to talk about today as well, isn't it? That you want to have a good time playing. I mean, we played Storm of Steel for 3 sessions, and I don't really think that any of those sessions we particularly had huge amounts of fun playing, just because of the situation.
I was having a lot more fun than you.
Driving over minefields,
driving over minefields and not blowing up, and I mean that was probably the game that I'd most dominated you in 8 years of playing. So that was quite enjoyable. But you were. Well, we'll talk about that game further.
Yeah, you can enjoy it. You can save it. Yeah. All right then. Okay, so number 3, Martin.
Okay, so number 3 is actually similar to Ad Hoc at Bow Range. It also has Matildas and it has Matilda 2s in it. Probing Laser Force. It's from the same pack because it's from the
West of
Alamein,
King of Country.
King of Country, yeah. So in this scenario, just a little bit of background. Okay, the one thing that kind of like takes away the enjoyment a little bit is when you've got an opponent whinging that either it's desperately boring defence or they're attacking and going, look, it's just impossible. Okay, so pretty much every game I've ever played against you that you lost, and Proving Laser Force was a really good example of this. The Germans, I was the British, I was defending, and there's a whole series of hills, and the Germans got across them.
Yeah.
I remember thinking you were doing all right, and I like this image. It's like the going over the combs of a comb. Hang on, is that what do you call them? Bristles? What's the
bristles?
The teeth. The teeth. Bristles. Of a comb, one after another, having to go over these hills.
Right.
And it seemed to me you were doing right, and then you just resigned. Yeah. It was such a long way.
I think I'd been ground down. I think that's what it was. I seem to remember being ground down, but I had a look at the comments. So I make comments for all our things, and I had said that it was a long way for the Germans to go. Obviously, I was the Germans, It was looking good until the fire phase from hell for the British. So maybe I felt like I was a bit diced for that one. But yeah,
probably you were. I do seem to remember that I couldn't really stand up to you because the British quite sort of spread out, and I kind of deliberately allowed, coalesced with a bit of spread,
right.
kind of like further back. So I guess maybe that was a part of what happened.
It's interesting because some scenarios you feel like, I don't mind taking a bloody nose to start with, but then you feel like, like the night on Knights of the Holy Grail, where suddenly, it's just a flesh wound, and now it's another flesh wound, and now I'm left with just a body rolling down a hill, and that's what I felt like I'd just been battered. And and in a way, the same feeling. A recent scenario we played, Galician Getaway, where that was just like, I'm walking into trap after trap after trap, and you're kind of picking yourself back up again, moving on.
You won that, though, didn't you?
I did win that. Yeah, I just don't level the amount of whining compared to the result. But yeah, that's very true, very true. But yeah, okay, all right.
Probing Layforce. So
number two. Cocktails for Molotov. So this was one of the scenarios I went and played at Aslock. I played a very nice guy, Jason someone. I'll look up his name because I don't want to get his name wrong. Now this one here is I thought it was quite a nice scenario. It looked kind of cool. In the end, it turned into like a 2-turn. I got destroyed. Jason Ickman at Aslock. So it was VBM Sleeze from hell, and I've got no problems with VBM. VBM me all you want. I don't mind at all. But what spoilt it for me was the fact that I just felt like I had no response to it. So obviously I've got Molotovs, as in the clues in the title there. But if you miss those Molotov rolls, you are literally sitting there and you just can't give a good game. And that's not, necessarily that one scenario. Just I think I always want to be able to give my opponent a half decent game. I don't want them to walk away thinking. Now, conversely, I love it if I get a walkover on my game. So I don't think I should feel bad about giving people a walkover against me, because I love it when it happens for me. But that one in particular, I didn't enjoy just because I think it was my last game at Aslock. I was looking forward to like a nice finale, and I just got VBM'd again. No problems with VBM, but just got VBM'd, couldn't do anything. And I think it was almost like they just kind of locked me down, and then everything else just run past, and it was an exit victory point scenario, and there was nothing to do.
Do you think Molotov cocktails are better or worse than Panzerfausts? I mean, getting them is the same, isn't it? Against tanks, it's a 3. Early, sort of mid-war Germans, it's a 3.
Yeah.
They don't suffer from backblast.
You get the chance of breaking a flame, don't you?
You get the chance of that, which is, I suppose, a similar problem to the backblast. But they haven't got to get a hit, have they?
That's right.
You've just got this kill number, haven't you? Which is a 6, which is pretty good.
I guess
very often Panzerfaust, they're only going to hit on a 6, or even worse.
Right.
And yet, we fire them off, don't we? Yeah.
So the flip side, I guess, is that Panzerfaust, usually when they hit, they kill. So that to kill dice roll is often irrelevant.
It's irrelevant, isn't it? Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
The 3 hex range in 1945 is fantastic for channeling armor. With Molotov speed,
don't have a 3 hex range, do they?
Yeah, that's the problem with them. I think one of the things we don't do enough with Panzerfaust is fire them against infantry and buildings. I don't remember the last time I went for that. And I know there's negative modifiers or positive modifiers for doing that, but it's probably a tactic that I should do more often, just as a.
It's worth bearing in mind that you can fire a support weapon, can't you? And you can fire your inherent.
Right.
So there's no reason why you can't fire a whole load of Panzerfaust off and still fire the fire group or whatever as well.
Yeah, exactly. So there's that. There's a top tip for you there, Martin. We should.
There we go.
Write our own book on that one.
I'll get that before I next need it.
All right then. Number 1, Martin.
Number 1, right? Okay, so I want people just to imagine this. Okay, me and Dave used to play little friendly games now and again, and sometimes Dave would win, and sometimes I would win. And then he says, "Oh, do you fancy? It would be all right if I just recorded this one." And of course, I'm absolutely smashed to pieces. This is Barkman's Corner. Now people can watch this game. It was years ago, wasn't it? Absolutely years ago. It's you can watch it at Parkman's Corner, and basically the whole scenario is an ambush. And I mean, I probably could have done so. I don't know. I didn't. I don't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing. I was in convoys. I couldn't do anything until your guys appeared, and when they appeared, they blew everything up.
It was brutal.
It was extraordinarily brutal. I do recommend people watch the video if we can have like a link to it or something like that.
Yeah, we've talked about it before. It was brutal, and I mean, it was one of those things where you play that kind of scenario once just to see, okay, it plays out like that, but it isn't fun for you at all. I mean, it was horrendous.
But I'm glad that was the first game you decided to share with the world. I mean, I still go to tournaments. Sometimes I'll sit down on my breakfast in the morning or whatever, and some bloke I don't even know go, "Oh, I watched that Bartman's Corner thing. I was wetting myself."
It's very true. You said it's got like 9,000 views or something now on YouTube.
It has, yeah. On a channel that nobody's ever heard of.
Exactly. It's got my kids. It's got pictures of videos of my kids walking and stuff, and you getting a wallop in an ASL. Anyway. Excellent. Okay, so I want to hear other people's worst scenarios, not necessarily from the design point of view. I don't want to call out bad designers or anything like that. That's not what this is about. By and large, every one of those designs is better than I can do. I'm not criticizing those designs. It's just the fun we have. Just it may be that you've messed up. It may be that your team got relegated midway through that scenario. Whatever it is that you dislike, let us know. YouTube comments, whatever. I want to make a bit of a discussion about just bad scenarios we've played for whatever reason. I think that's kind of a fun thing. So, okay, on to
the semi-final.
The semi-final. All right.
The semi-finals. The second semi-final.
Second semi-final. Right. Okay. So here we go. So this is rated at Baranovich E. Okay. So here we go. So this is the start of rated at Baranovich. So we've got, as we mentioned, Richard Webb is the attacking Russians, and Dwayne Duval is the defending Germans. First thing to mention is that Richard spotted his setup wasn't quite right, or in fact Dwayne I think spotted that the setup wasn't right, and I think Richard was okay to go with it as it was. So if you remember, the actual setup for the Russians is actually one hex further to the left, as it were, the south of this map, and actually in the newer version, Onslaught Torture 2, they can actually enter from J, not the H.
That's right.
So so we've got that to start with. Okay, so a very different setup from my setup. So a much more central and evenly spaced. Yeah. Mine was much more up front. So. Yeah.
And the attacker here has also got a lot more sort of tanks, infantry on tanks and things, haven't they? For a bit of like rapid. Well, there we go.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we are, we're watching from. I think we're watching. Well, actually, we've got neither counter, so we can't see who's doing what. We don't know where the hip German troops are. But so right. Interesting here. So the first thing here was that Dwayne elected to not drop hip for the first tank that goes past to strip the concealment, and strips it on the second one here, presumably because he's not going to get a lot better shot at this point.
Yeah.
So breaking the crew straight away.
And they've gone to a half squad as well. They must have failed the.
Yeah, I think the bailout, wasn't it? Yeah, exactly. And we've got a fire lane coming in as well from the other light machine gun here. So some armoured assault movement coming in. And Richard mentioned that actually he felt that one of the really good spots for a hip unit would be in actually this big building. If you've got a hip, let's say for example a hip heavy machine gun sitting, here in K3 or whatever, that would be pretty brutal. But
it would be.
But anyway, here's.
But he didn't do that.
No. So we've got, is that a broken? No, so there's double 6. I guess just the squad.
Mm-hmm.
In comes the flamethrower
Yeah.
Which is looking in a good position already with the final fired squad. So right now, I mean, this looks pretty good for the Russians.
They've done it's a good first turn, isn't it? They've got well into the game.
Yeah,
some good advancing fire shots.
Yeah, exactly.
So the hero, has he just been created, or was he OVA?
So let's have a look. I think that it was a heater battle. It was a heater battle. Yeah.
Heater battle. Yeah. Okay.
It's always annoying when you start giving your opponents. Okay.
I always teaches you to fire them, really. It's got a lot of Russians in that big building. I wonder if he is concerned to make sure there's nothing there.
Exactly that. Yeah.
Yeah. Or is it just a good jumping off place into the graveyard? Perhaps as well, I suppose.
I think there was. I think he was certainly worried about that.
Certainly, Germans are just withdrawing, aren't they?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So we've got a tank that's managing to malfunction its flamethrower on the first shot, or maybe its second shot.
Perfect.
And it's disabled because of the 6.6.
And they're quite reliable weapons, aren't they? The vehicular flamethrowers.
Yeah, this one was on is it on a 10? Is it?
I think it's
11. 11. Yeah. So actually, but that's that's an X11. So.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then it's taken out by, presumably there's. Took that out there. Where did that come from? It just got blown up by something. What are we missing?
Is this thing where counters disappear, Dave?
No, we're on the newer, the older version of Vassal.
Yeah.
So, I think we've got all the. We'll double check. I don't know where that's come from. Oh, I think no, I don't think it. I think it's come back again. I don't think it is disabled. I think it's just.
Okay. Yeah.
I think it's just.
Love how he's got the tanks and infantry working together.
Yeah, exactly that. So you got another malfunction here, but I suppose both the flamethrower and tanks had a malfunction.
It's not great news, is it?
But you got the radio. Yeah, up in a good spot.
Now. Yeah.
Yep. So that's pretty useful.
That's right.
Now this is a little bit risky, isn't it? Pushing the tanks so far forward without the infantry.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's some sleazing going on there. Now, I think at that point, the defender has to lose concealment if the tank finishes in its movement phase.
Yeah.
So.
Shouldn't he have lost concealment by now?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I think exactly that. Yeah. If you end your movement phase.
Yeah. Those Russians are pushing hard, but the thing is that the German force is intact.
Right.
Virtually,
Exactly.
Isn't it? And that's that balance between retreating and forward setups.
Exactly that. So we've revealed the anti-tank gun here, although it keeps concealment.
It's a broad-sighted location as well.
Yeah, nice, very nice. Oof, and then there's a double one.
Right. Okay. The Russians have got tanks to burn. I think they
literally
a game like this is.
They literally have tanks to burn there. Yeah.
You've got to use them.
Exactly. So. Okay. Good counter management there. So we've got. Okay, so we've got the melee here.
Now this is always a bit of a mixed bag, isn't it? Getting into the melee because you use the vehicle to bypass sleaze them,
right?
Freeze them.
Yeah, so in theory,
disadvantages of that.
Exactly, because the Germans they've got a +2 for the vehicle. They've got another +1 for the CX of the. They've got -1.
Good chance of the ambush. Yeah.
So there's been a double 1 rolled somewhere. That was that Patsy. I can't know what that.
Negon's turn 2, so there must have been no, nothing happened really in the melee.
Yeah, maybe it was a wind change for the double one.
Yeah.
So here comes the OBA.
OBA.
Black chit. Yeah, it's very inaccurate. Got the smoke. Now they've got the smoke has changed. Yeah. They've got it coming from the east.
Must have come from the double one.
Oh, do you think that was the wind change? You're right. Yeah. So, yeah, that smoke is quite useful in this scenario for the.
It's helpful for the Russians, isn't it? I think?
Yeah. But the German defence here is looking pristine, isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
It's
absolutely, and the Russians just had such a lot to do. But I think we felt this in the others game, didn't we? Is that they've got so much to do it with.
Right, they found some dummies up there, and that's made the position look a bit better for the Russians because the Germans there looked like they were covering a flank. So around the Russians come. Oh, he's got the old clockwise, counterclockwise hell going on in there. That's a situation you know very well, Martin.
I do. I'm terrible for it.
Spend one to turn. No, not that way. The other way.
Yeah, I actually do it, and I think this vassal's got it the wrong way around. It's never vassal. Okay, we've got the Panzerschreck.
Panzerschreck coming out from here. Oh yeah, that's a hit of 10. That should be blowing up.
Is he going to want to fire a Panzerschreck in a hex with lots of guys in a building?
It's a rubble, isn't it? But yeah, I don't know about the backblast there, but
you get backblast in rubble.
Yes, you
could affect the whole stack, or is it just one unit?
I think it potentially is random selection.
Well, I think it's random selection. Yeah,
but that Panzerschreck I think should have gone because I think it was a 10.
If that was rolled for that,
yeah, looked like it was 10 to hit. Another double 6 there for something. Okay, so the guns now immobilised the guys. I think that might have been the crew survival or the bailout check. I think maybe.
Yeah.
So.
A few broken Germans about now.
Yeah, the OBA is in an interesting place here down.
Yeah.
Down here. You would have thought that perhaps closer to the bigger stack.
Yeah.
So
it's Russian turn 3 now, isn't it?
Yep.
Close combat's going all over the place.
So we've got a close combat
with the crew.
Yeah, you got so that's unresolved in there.
Got a massive melee going on in R2. Is that still unresolved?
So
have they not rolled for it yet?
I think they're about to roll. So this one is that one just was unresolved there. Oh, that was 6 there for the Russians, and the Germans withdraw.
Yeah, and there's obviously a little bit of protest there about dice rolls because they've brought up their data.
Yeah, exactly. Right, so I think that might be their. That was the end of their day. I assume they're going to start again.
Yeah.
And in terms of both players, what they rolled in, Dwayne was rolling 7-2-4 and Richard 7-4-5. In fact, they were all above 7, other than Dwayne's other rolls, wind change and stuff like that, and Richard's other rolls. So they were all pretty bad rolls.
Yeah. So this is Axis turn 3. They're doing German prep fire.
We've got some final. Got some movement now.
Got some flames spreading.
Okay, this looks like a good spot for the OBA here.
Yeah, it doesn't help that there's Russians in there as well, but yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's a very good spot. Yeah, and you can see the Germans just literally
just
shrinking
falling back.
like
But they're falling back in such good order, aren't they? I mean, I know there's a lot of broken.
That's the thing. That's the
a
thing.
lot of broken Germans.
They have got the road to get across, haven't they? The W road.
Yes.
They've got quite a stack that are not across safely, and they're mostly broken.
Yeah, this tank here up in X9 would be lovely in W9, just protecting that road a little bit better.
I would have thought so. Yeah.
but certainly. Now, if you were withdrawing from here, presumably the OBA actually gives you a little bit of a non-interdiction. Obviously, you've got to take the OBA hit instead.
Yes. Yeah.
But it does give you.
Yeah.
It does give you a little bit of a path if there's no way back out of there. So I actually popped in and saw these guys playing at one point, and I think it's just after I'd finished playing. So I was like, this is looking good for the Russians again here now with the wall advantage and
definitely.
So at this point, I mean, it's hard to say that the Russian player has done anything wrong, have they? They're looking quite good, but the Germans just in control of like how they're defending and what they're defending.
I like the way that the Germans are in like a straight line, and they're able to protect each other. Like one break isn't the end of the world, is it?
Right.
Mind you, that blaze. It's not great losing a tank, but a blaze might help the Russians cross that road.
Yeah, that was nice. I assume that's a Panzerfaust there.
Mm.
Now, I don't think we've seen the hip unit pop up, but I may have been mistaken. And we haven't seen the infantry gun either yet. Oh, the infantry gun's here in the middle. This is the infantry gun's here.
That's
right.
Yeah, in melee, isn't it? I'm really enjoying this kind of like Russian build up and like just bullying their way through.
Yeah, this is a really good scenario, isn't it? This reminds me a little bit of. Do you remember the ceramic factory where there was a massive? That was from Into the Rubble Pack, wasn't it? It was massive German against, and it was just kind of real smash mouth, across the roads from each other. Kind of duking it out.
Yeah, no, I remember that. It was a good scenario. And there's a special map, isn't there, that comes with the comes with it of the ceramic factory and the surrounding area.
Right.
I'm finding that very difficult to defend.
Okay, looks like there's a bit of searching going on there.
Yeah.
To clarify.
There's a lot of broken Germans around.
Yeah. I mean, that stack there in X5.
Yeah, they've still got the heavy. There's a disabled medium, isn't there, with a broken unit that's going to be out. So the Germans are certainly being eroded now.
This melee's still going on.
Yeah.
The thing about these row houses, though, is that they are so difficult to ruin. Now, we had a discussion, didn't we, on the forums about my game with the broken guy on the top floor, and figured out that a Russian tank in bypass would actually be enough to break and to destroy that guy. So, it's kind of a top tip is if you are broken, if you're facing a broken enemy in the upper floor of a row house, by parking a tank in bypass. Will eliminate.
Route, but can't route, can they?
That's right. So it will eliminate that unit. And you also had a good idea about the breach. You could breach with the demo charges as well if you absolutely needed to get an attack in on the upper floor.
It's great using demolition charges for breaches because you don't get fired at. They have half their. They potentially create the breach, but also half the firepower of the demolition charges lie if the attack against the defending infantry.
Right.
So it's a very good way to get through them.
Yeah,
we've got them available.
So, I mean, the German defence looking superb, isn't it? I mean, it really is.
Yeah.
It's.
I love watching players like this because no matter how much damage is done to the Germans, they always seem to end up looking like they're in reasonably good shape for the next attack.
Yeah.
And they're getting hammer blows. The Russians are blasting away at them, but they're keeping themselves tight.
Yep. In comes the ISU. Here comes the flamethrower tank, and these are the nuts that are going to break, or the nut crackers that are going to break the nuts, aren't they? Here, I mean, they're going to
absolutely.
Yeah, this is if you're going to need rooting these guys out. There's heavy machine guns just popped up there.
Yeah. It was there before.
Was it? Okay. Okay.
No. Germans got so many machine guns. It's just malfunctioned, that heavy machine gun. That's not good news.
Okay, I like the tank going around the back. This is always good.
Yeah.
The only thing is that this building here, the Z building here, is a little bit dead anyway in terms of the Germans don't want to be in there trying to take this row house back.
No.
But it is important to get things around the back of the Germans to try and at least encircle them and things like that. That tank isn't really doing that there.
I guess is he trying to get? What is he aiming for? I think he just ran out of movement points. Perhaps.
Yeah, perhaps he's going to chase those broken guys.
Yeah.
I mean, the Russians here, they're attacking well coordinated, aren't they? They've still got 4 turns to go now.
Nicely dispersed, close together. You've got massive fire groups, and you've got the tanks in between them, all protected.
Right. So actually, now it's only 3 turns now for the Russians.
It's starting to look a little bit more difficult for the Russians now.
This is where it starts to look tough, doesn't it? So the Germans get to skulk here.
Very interested to see how this plays out in turn.
What's
6.
your view at the moment?
I think it just feels like the Russians got too much to do, which is exactly how I felt watching the other game.
Yeah. And yet, when I was playing it, sorry.
Yeah. Well, really, that row house isn't one building, is it? Because of the nature of row houses, it's like 6 buildings, or 5,
or even 12 locations, isn't it? Or 10 locations.
It's certainly 12 locations.
10,
but the fact that they're all separated, makes it very difficult. Whereas a building like the factory, once you kind of get into, you're in the building and you can start clearing it quite quickly.
Right. And even then, the factory's being defended by 2 squads, a heavy and a light in there, and probably a third squad there, perhaps.
The difficulty of factories, isn't it, is actually the first time you get into it, because you're potentially exposed to very heavy fire without much the TM you normally get in a wood or a stone building.
Right, exactly. You can see there, the flamethrowers just eliminated a squad. Which is.
See, once these weapons start to be successful, they're very powerful.
Yes.
Got a squad. Getting swords adjacent into the X2-3 building.
Oh, look at that demo charge going in as well. So the demo charge has gone in.
Yeah.
Important to mark the demo charge as CX as well, because that has an effect. So don't forget.
It come from a CX unit. Definitely.
Yeah. Mark the. I don't know if I'm assuming it came from this CX guy rather than the one in W6. I think it's this one, but. Yeah, it's often a good idea to mark the demo charge with a CX. Is that the leader going around looking as well? I'm not quite sure what that 7-0's doing.
That's the leader, yeah. Get that half squad back. Oh no, it's a full squad. They must be dummies now. They're not. Let's bounce them out.
Oh.
Well, caught in the open.
Oof.
Doesn't get a good shot, but enough. Breaks everything, yeah.
The Russians taking a real long way around here.
Yeah.
But this is quite nice that you can start to put fire on both sides of the Germans.
Yeah.
Where's he off to? Where's this Russian off to? Look at this.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a plan.
The DD8 Russians, they're going to get orders from the commissar at some point to say, "Come back."
Come back.
Yeah. He's off trying to take Eastern Germany. By the sound of it.
Yeah. It always frightens me when people do things like that, though, because I don't always understand why they're doing it, and then I find out.
We've had look at this. So let's just back up a little bit here. What happened here? This was.
Was that a hit?
No.
No.
So the tank on the back here is presumably gone into bypass, or perhaps even the full.
Possibly, yeah.
Oh no, he's 8 movement points.
Is that a cellar roll?
I don't think so. I think it's a.
I mean, they've done it as an other. It looks like he's moved in. He's rolled a 6 on the coloured dice roll, doesn't he?
You might be right there. Yeah. Because Dwayne took the task check to presumably keep concealed.
Yeah.
Passed the task check, and then it's gone into the cellar.
Yeah.
Now that's a single hex building.
Yeah.
Does that still have cellars?
Yeah.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
It's just swallowed that tank up.
Yeah.
And it doesn't.
Can you imagine being those Germans?
Well, I mean, they're standing taller, literally. Wow. And that doesn't do any damage to the building at all.
That's right. What I do wonder is, can you get another tank in that cellar?
When you get it hold. What's the stacking capacity of a stacking capacity of a cellar?
Yeah, it's a very effective little Russian attack going on here, I think.
The thing is, they're running out of men now, aren't they? The Russians.
They are.
It almost looks like a fair fight here.
If they're running out of tanks, they can always go and find one in the cellar. I mean, this is just one turn. It's a lot of progress, I think.
So yeah, I mean, at this point, Russians only have 2 turns left.
Yeah.
To root out. I mean, that row house looks difficult now.
So the row house is the tough one, isn't it?
Yeah.
The factory, maybe that'll fall. So we've got German prep fire. Not desperately effective. Yeah, they're struggling with the brokies now, the Germans, aren't they?
Yeah, so we've got...
Right, so that's a good move to move back into Z2 with the stack of Germans with a -1 leader.
Yep.
They're relatively safe there.
Yep.
And they can hit hard at anything that moves adjacent. And they've got another squad as well to keep people in here with German prep, Russian prep fire. OBA.
Yeah, that's the one that's going to...
Yeah.
Now, can he see that there? I don't think he can see that hex. Where's the...
I don't think you can see that hex, no.
So I don't know if that's just an extra chip.
But you can perhaps see the... I mean, if that's where it's landed...
Oh, right, maybe that's where it...
You can see the... yeah, I think that's okay, isn't it? And you can get to see the blast height. There's another German...
Oh, yeah, that was...
7.
Right, so I think that was the AR was placed maybe in Y2 and it's bounced to...
Yeah.
Right. And then I think possibly because he's got no line of sight to it, he loses the...
Yeah.
So round comes the ISU.
For exposed tanks.
Yeah. It's always a sign of I need every pip on the dice now.
Yeah.
Those guys.
I think it's very close now. I mean, even in prep fire, X7 broke. Only 2 hexes left in the row house for the Germans.
Right.
They got most of their eggs in one basket in the factory.
Yep. I think is that something that just went missing in Y7, I think. That was a... I mean, there's a nice place for the ISU now to target that.
Yeah, definitely. You know, the Russians swarming over all these positions.
So this is interesting as well, bringing the close combat into Z6.
Yeah.
Just to tie him up. I wonder whether he was better off in that row house trying to help. Because the issue here is getting into Z8, isn't it? That's going to be the challenge. Now, you can do it if the A8 guys survive. But as soon as you put someone upstairs now in Z8, that's going to be a difficult spot, as we found in my game.
So this is the axis. Not much left for them to do, is it? Just a sort of
it's encircled.
Yeah.
Now, encircled is important here because if they break at any point now, they automatically surrender.
Correct. Yeah.
They don't get to rout.
So the other squad has gone from AA. Oh, has he moved into the stack? He's moved into AA2, hasn't he? Okay, so this is a German advancing fire.
Now that's so okay. So now he routed upstairs. I think if they are encircled, those guys above actually should be surrendering, unless no quarter's been declared,
which is possible.
Yeah.
Again, just relentless Russians here.
Yeah.
Pressing forward.
But the problem again is going to be that they're not going to be able to route those guys away from the level 1. So they're going for the factory. The pin. It's one of those times where the pin is as good as the... you can see how grim it's going to be when they're going to run down the road against the 9-1. Oh, this is going to be a 12 down 3. Dwayne rolls a 7. There's a bunch of breaks. There's a pass of a morale check there.
They've made it.
And then...
No. Yeah. Leader's broken.
There's a pin squad there.
Pin squad, okay. Well, he can't get to close combat now.
So I think there's one unit still in...
There is the unit
Z2. Yeah. Oh, in comes the tank.
They can break and route upstairs, can't they?
Which one?
No, it's the factory.
Yeah, the factory. And you've got the tank coming up in Y9. So if this guy goes in bypass, it hasn't.
Yeah.
Hasn't gone into bypass. Maybe he's going to go for the shot instead.
Yeah.
Because of course, what you can do with the flamethrowing tank is run up to it in the movement phase, fire the banning fire, and then just get into bypass as well. So the factory is breaking in there.
It is.
You've still got one leader in there, and the demo charge is on there as well. Oh, that was the demo charge.
And there's a full squad in AA3. I didn't realise he was there.
Yeah. So the likelihood is he's going to get hit by the 2 squads in close combat.
Excuse me. It's very close.
Yeah. So here we go for the last close combats.
But he's still in.
Yeah, he's upstairs. So I think
that's
the end of the game. So I think regardless of how it works.
Yeah. That was an extremely close game. I mean, it couldn't be close. I mean, they've got a very good chance of winning the close combat.
Yeah, you got 2-1 in there and a 4-1.
4-1, and then you've got just one hex that was kind of competitive, really.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, so presumably they wouldn't win all 4 of those, no matter which. You need all 4 of them to win. But
absolutely,
there we go. So Dwayne is into the final. So good job, Dwayne. Now it also is congratulations, really, in a way, to his brother Kevin, because it means that Kevin is the only person in the world to have beaten Dwayne. So,
which is an amazing achievement.
Yeah. So
well done to Dwayne's brother. Yeah.
Kevin is no doubt cheering Dwayne on as well. Friendly. So Dwayne and I are going to play the final. So Martin, you have picked the final scenario for us with no
I have indeed.
collaboration from myself.
No, absolutely. So I've picked a scenario from the March Madness full ASL rulebook pack, which is available for sale from the ASL Scenario Archive.
Yep.
And I've chosen Brazil's here for the final. Which is an interesting, quite reasonable size, very interesting little bat match.
Yep. And so it's got no play-ins on the archive, and I don't think any on Raw at the moment, but Raw and archive might be out of sync at the moment.
So we have no idea how balanced it is, but we have absolute faith in the March Madness packs.
Yep.
It's always very, very well designed, so we're going to go for that.
Absolutely. So Dwayne, I'm sure you're going to watch this. Dwayne, pick a side. You can pick whichever side you want to. We will play. At a time of your convenience. And looking forward to it. I can't wait to to see. And now, Martin, we're gonna have to get a trophy. So I think we're gonna get an engraved trophy. Depending on if I win this or if I lose this game,
yeah,
it'll be a big trophy.
You just put your name on a trophy, don't
or
you?
a little trophy.
Dwayne might win this,
Dwayne is going to win. The way Dwayne, right? If you look at that game, Dwayne defended that. I mean, I don't think Richard did a lot wrong in that, but
no.
But Dwayne defended that fairly expertly. I mean, that was a very orderly defence.
Very good defence, yeah. And it was a very good call of him to set up further back than you did.
Yep.
I think.
Yep. Yeah, it looked like a better defence, didn't it? It looked like it looked like the German was in control of that all the way through, and the Russian was up against it, which it certainly didn't feel like for me. I felt like I was up against it. So I'm looking forward to playing that.
Yeah. Mm.
Excellent. Okay. All right. So now let's break this up a little bit. So we're going to listen to Toby's top tips about.
And what's he talking about today then?
It's how to defend against vehicle bypass movement sleaze. Where do you stand on this, Martin?
Yeah, you could have done with this when you were playing cocktails to Molotov, couldn't you?
I could have done, and we'll talk about.
Make some notes, Dave. Make some notes.
All right, over to Toby.
What I'm going to discuss today is ways to avoid VBM freeze sleaze, as it were, a vehicular bypass movement, which I know some players loathe. In fact, I know one guy who left a tournament game because someone VBM sleazed him, and he said tanks wouldn't do that, and walked off. So I guess it's a tactic that historical or not exists within the game, and it can be very frustrating to undergo, but there are ways to avoid and mitigate it. One of the main ways actually is, which I'm not going to cover because it's quite a complicated issue, is regard to laying down things like residual firepower in hexes. As the vehicle comes towards you, you're worried about infantry following it up, and therefore you start first firing and spray firing and this, that and the other. I'm not going to cover that, as I say, because it's a bit complex. You really kind of need a graphical example, so to speak, of hexes and what have you. And actually, there's some very good articles within journals. I'm pretty sure my good friend Peter Stroyf wrote one, and it's in a recent journal. So I'd advise reading those sort of articles. But my advice is on the basic side, and it's threefold. So firstly, always remember there are locations that your enemy cannot VBM freeze you. So if you're at level 2 of a building, even if he's crew exposed, you're still going to be able to fire out of it. Marshes aren't good for much if you're in them, but you sure as hell, there's no way a vehicle's going in there. And you could be in the woods, and you could be in an anti-tank ditch in the woods. Well, there's no vehicle going in there either. And so always be aware of your terrain, and that actually some places are virtually immune, and you can make some places less likely to be frozen, VBM frozen, by placing fortifications and things like wire. Even normal trenches require bog checks. So you can avoid it in some way, and as I say, some places are immune anyway. So that's the first point, is always be aware of those locations. Secondly, one thing that loads of players forget, and actually this can nab me on occasion, is remember that the rule that you actually have to have a gap between the hex side and the obstruction, the woods or the building or whatever it is. There actually has to be a gap, which isn't just, I can see green, it is a space. No, you have to be able to place the counter sideways on it, and for there to be space on both sides, as I recall. And I'll tell you what, that gap is always is always much smaller than you think. once you start getting that counter out, putting it sideways, you'll be surprised how narrow they are. And therefore, if in doubt, enforce it. Just say, yeah, can we measure that's in? And you'll be surprised how many times actually that something that looks, oh, that's going to be in, isn't it? Yeah, he's going to be able to do it. It starts narrowing down a bit, and eventually there will come a time when it's like, well, no, I can't see space either side. Right, well, I'm afraid back you go, and spend a point to stop. Oh, and you've spent all those movement points you were trying to go in with, and that can be quite fun. So, never forget, and if in doubt, enforce the test. That it's not just space that allows him to do it. There has to be enough space, and there's always less than you think there is. And the third and final point I'd make is make sure that you're counting movement points on his vehicles. So reason for that is say a vehicle's got 14 movement points, right? And he's coming in and he comes adjacent to you on 8. And then he goes, right, bypass, 9, 10. Are you doing anything? And you're like, no, keep going. And he says, I'll stay in motion. I mean, this is sort of schoolboy error, but many players make it. And of course, you can't do that. You have to spend all 14. So if he says stay in motion, you just say, okay, well, hang on a minute, mate, you're on 10. What are you doing for 11 and 12 and 13 and 14? Now, he might keep bypassing round. He might not be able to. And sometimes you're going to be able to say, well, what do you want to do? Stop and delay? And of course, if he stops, then he's a lot more vulnerable to street fighting or close combat reaction fire and all those sorts of things. So always enforce the movement points. Someone can't just go into your hex and then just say, oh, I'll spend the rest of my movement points in it there. You can't do it. Which is why when you are VBM sleazing someone else, you always make sure you try to do it on the last movement points of the vehicle. So if you're going to delay, do it outside the hex. And as you go in, you go 13, 14, stay in motion. And that's it.
So good tips from Toby.
As always.
Have you ever called someone for making them check their counter width on a overrun?
I'm sure I have. I do feel sometimes a little bit embarrassed doing it, but yep. Toby's right. The rule's clear. But what I will do is I will make sure that when I am doing vehicle bypass myself, I will do my best to try and check visually before I'm in that I'm not going to get stuck with that rule. So I apply it to myself. And a very good call with the, making sure that people count properly.
Right.
Certainly something that I used to do wrong.
Yeah.
But I do it. I do it now. I think if you're a player that thinks ahead, you kind of know exactly what you're planning to do with the tanks. For the first at least 2 or 3 years of playing ASL, I moved the tank one at a time to find out how many points I got left, and then decide what I'm going to do with the next point.
Right.
But if you think your strategy through properly, then obviously you need to move in having spent all of your movement points in that hex.
Yeah. Would you? So you call a player out to because I always find it's a little bit difficult.
I don't know. I do think it's a bit embarrassing. But do you know what? I think I might not get them to get a counter out. But if it's obviously not wide enough, I won't let them do it.
That's fine. Yeah. But in terms of the movement point one, spending the right number of movements. So if they go 12 and then what do you
Perhaps
do?
It's the wrong thing. But what I probably would always say to somebody is, well, you can't do it like that.
Right. Go back and
they correct the number of points that they're spending.
Yeah.
But Toby's right, because really a good player, and you should be encouraging your opponent to be a good player, should be counting that in probably in the first instance. Yeah. When you declare it, you declare it.
Yeah.
The thing is, I think I don't.
If ASL was a game where you regularly played people you didn't know, and you regularly had to come up against people that you were never going to play again, I think you can definitely be a little bit, not prickly is the wrong word, and I don't think Toby is ever prickly, but to be a little bit more conscientious about the rules. But we're going to, even in a tournament, the chances are you've played these people before, or you'll play them again. Yeah. And so I don't ever think that I would say to someone, you can't do that. Now carry on making a move or whatever. Just because I think the community is too small to be able to do that. I think maybe I have done that to people and they'll remember and they'll point out to me. I don't know, but I think I've definitely in the past, recently, have said to people, "Oh, okay, well, what are you going to do? Are you spending all your points there? Technically, you should do whatever." Yeah.
I think that's what I would do is point it out like that because at the end of the day, you want them to play it right next time. You want to be a better player, but Toby's right as well.
Yeah.
And in fact, another way to think about this is you were playing Toby, or you're playing Trevor Edwards, or someone else like that that's a real stickler for the rules. Are you offended or upset if as you declare it, it goes brilliant, right? You can't stay in that hex. You got to move out. You're not offended. Do you know what I mean? I don't think I'd be offended. I just accept he's applying the rules correctly.
Yeah. No, as always, and I think it just goes back to. But then you have to apply them to yourself as well, very strictly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
that's the key thing, isn't it?
I mean, I think probably me and you both either it's a virtue or we're both guilty of being a bit easygoing when people make mistakes with the rules. Partly because we both are guilty of making mistakes with the rules.
Wholly because we are the people that make mistakes with the rules as well.
Wholly because we are.
And why not? I mean, I don't think that's a terrible thing.
No. This is a slightly different style of play.
Yeah, and by the way, we don't have as many wins as Toby, so we don't have
nor Trevor for that matter.
No, yeah, exactly, yeah. So, and I think that kind of application of the rules does make people a better player because they are aware, and I don't doubt that the flip side is if I'm playing against you, let's say my tank has 15 movement points, and I go into bypass at 12. And you say, and I say, I'm in for 12, and you say, okay. Yeah. You and I both know that rule now, and you know that I might be testing you to see if you're going to first fire at that guy. So strictly speaking, now, we know that rule. We've got to play it properly because
there's every reason why you might only declare 12. Into that bypass of that hex. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it makes it awkward if you then say to me, or I say to you, "Oh, what are you going to do?" Yeah. And then you go, oh yeah, right, because you would do that anyway because you now know the rules. So it is interesting. It's a tricky one, isn't it? So
all right, we'll hold each other to that one from now on.
Okay, all right, excellent. Next week, what are we going to play? We're going to play the scenario of the month scenario. So, do you remember what that is?
No, I can't remember what that is.
Okay,
it's got snow in it.
It has the dead of winter. We're going to play. This is to promote the Scenario Archives Scenario of the Month. If you play that scenario, the Dead of Winter, it's a general scenario. So if you've got the generals, I'm sure you can find them. They're floating around. I'm certain a copy of that. In fact, let's see.
Maybe reprinted as something.
I'm going to have a look for you right now and see.
Okay. Definitely, and if you do play it, then put something up on the.
Even easier, Martin. It's in part of the classic ASL, so it's available for free on MMP's website, so you can download that. Martin, pick a side, any side. I don't know what sides there are. It's classic ASL, Martin. You know it's going to be German, Russian.
It's Russian, German.
All right.
Well, look, I played the Germans in this one, so I'll play the Russians in the Dead of Winter.
Okay, all right. So I'll tell you that. On Raw, it's 97.80 in favour of the Germans. Scenario Archive, which tends to have more recent plays, is 17 to Russians 8. So if you want the balance, I will give you the balance of that.
No, play it raw. Play it how it is.
You don't care, do you? Dwayne, well played on your semi-final victory. We will be in touch to get that final done. We'll obviously do a recording of it. And if you see Dwayne and I playing on Vassal, feel free to pop in and say hi. We won't lock the room or anything. And Martin, thanks for the game as well for you today.
Well, you too.
And until next week,
take care of yourselves, and see you all soon.
See you soon. Take care. Bye. So what do we see here? So first thing is that Richard Webb is the attacking Russians. Dwayne DeVal is the defending Germans. Now, just as a...
Can I hold you there just for a sec? How would I find that so I can look at it as well?
Okay, all right. Let me just stop and figure that out for you.